YouTube. What's up, everyone? All right, we're live. Welcome, everyone. It's Thursday. Time for another broadcast session. So, welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me. And my internet's a lot better this week than it was. I was in Taos, Mexico last week with some questionable internet connection, so it's a lot better now. My journey across the country has continued. And since last week, I've been in Amarillo, Texas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I just arrived in absolute middle of nowhere out in Arkansas. I'm spending some time out in the forest, far away from major cities and things like that. So things are good. My male sexual mastery is happening a week from this upcoming July 2nd. July 2nd, a free training for men, all about mastering your sexual energy, ejaculatory orgasms, how to overcome premature ejaculation, last longer in bed, how to break porn addiction habits, things like that. I'm going to be covering all these things in depth in this workshop. It's going to be absolutely amazing. You're going to learn how to circulate sexual energy through your body and really manifest what you want with sexual energy. So again, sign up for that. There's a link on this video on YouTube. There's a link in my Instagram bio. Or actually, it's not. Let me post it up in the chat here on YouTube so you guys have it. Hey, Mariah, would you mind posting the link in the YouTube chat? All right. It'll be up there for you guys. So again, that's happening July 2nd. Super excited for that. But anyways, I'm going to get into a little, share some information with you guys today. And I'm going to be talking about mastering your sexual energy today. So our sexual energy it's our creative potential. It's this drive that we have to complete ourselves in a lot of ways. But the thing with this energy is that this driving quality of it's this desireful energy and it wants to complete itself, right? But the thing is that for a lot of men, this energy wants to leave their body. This because this energy wants to mobilize itself. It wants to create. It wants to bond and connect with others. And there's this tendency for it to be released from the body. For men, this means excessive. This is my connection's unstable. Sorry about this, guys. Okay, so you're turning your body into this alchemical steam-powered engine where this sexual energy is driving you. And again, if you think of the power that this energy has in your life, what decisions has it made you act upon? What things have you done based on your sexual input? So when you really look into this, when you think about this, you consider this, you see just how powerful this energy is and the force it's had in your life in driving you to do various things. And now if you can harness that energy and choose what you want to put it, direct this energy by holding it within your body, then again, it becomes fuel, becomes the energy that's driving you. Now you choose what you do with it rather than it just kind of forcing you to seek one-night stands, hookups, jerking off to porn every day, weird impulsive things. You can put it into whatever you want, into developing yourself, practicing meditation, having the discipline and willpower to really go after the things you want to in life. Getting off your couch, getting out into the world, developing your body, developing your mind, starting a business, no longer being an employee for someone else, whatever it is that you want to do. Sexual energy becomes one of your greatest resources for having the ambition and the willpower and the drive to do this, right? So it truly is this energy of creation and completion. And the process of sexual kung fu is transforming the mind and the body to be able to handle this energy. Because here's the thing, it's not that easy to just suddenly change your relationship with your sexuality and your sexual energy, which I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this, because we have all these sexual habits, these pathways of expression that we've created in how we use our sexual energy. I'm not sure if you guys can hear this thunderstorm that's happening outside, but it's really awesome. So we've created this certain expression and locked it into our bodies of how we use our sexual energy and how we express it. And again, for most men, this is impulsively ejaculating it out. You're creating this pathway of depleting yourself, right? So to change this dynamic requires some work. It requires some training. And first of all, we want to be able to hold more of this energy within our bodies, to hold more of this this semen essence. For men, this means beginning to practice semen retention. You're not just leaking your gene, your vital essence out anymore. You're holding it within the body. So you have to train yourself to be able to do this, right? So first of all, being able to control your mind and your body is very, very important, because for most people, they simply allow the mind to go wherever it wants to go, and they cave into whatever little impulse, whatever desire their mind has. Oh, the mind says I should watch porn. Okay, I'm going to watch porn. It says I should eat this donut. I'm going to eat the donut. Most people don't really have a high level of self-control, we could say, so they just allow their mind to drive them around. And this is a huge part of internal mastery and training, especially working with sexual energies. You really must be able to develop this willpower and this discipline, because you have to start changing your habits. You have to be able to say, no, I'm not going to just jerk off and release this energy more. What can I do instead? So, okay, I have this desire to do that. I have this impulse to do that. I can choose to say no. I can choose to store this energy in my body and maybe put it into something else rather than ejaculating it out. Maybe I'm going to put it into physical exercise. I'm going to put it into this project I'm working on. I'm going to write a song, put it into that. I'm going to paint a picture, put it into that. I'm going to put it into my business I'm working with. So this comes down to you starting to use this energy as fuel. You store it in the body, you build it up, and now it drives you, what it is you want to do with this energy. So self-control here is obviously very important. What you're doing is you're changing the pathways in your mind and body. You're getting out of these unconscious habits that you're doing every single day, and you're choosing to live with intention, with consciousness, saying, what do I really want to do with my energy? What do I really want to be doing right now? And so when you build up your sexual energy, it intensifies this drive that you have. And so the process of sexual kung fu is, again, preparing the body to hold this energy, clearing blockages. Because here's the thing, a lot of men just don't have the space in their body to hold this higher level of sexual energy, this sexual charge. They have all this tension. They're disconnected from the rest of their body. Their genitals are disconnected from the rest of their body. So this energy starts to build up. They feel horny. They feel sexually frustrated right away. They have to release it out of the body. There's really nowhere else for it to go. So the process is to get comfortable with this feeling of sexual desire, with sexual arousal, but not needing to act on it, not needing to have to put that, release it from your body to release that tension, but be able to reach completion with that internally, which involves circulating this energy through your body. So the first step, of course, you stop the leak, stop ejaculating every day, but that's not everything. You must create this pathway in the body for the energy to be able to move in, to be expressed in, because you can't just lock this energy in the genitals and expect, that to be healthy for you, right? You have to keep this energy moving. Sexual energy wants to move. It usually wants to move away from our body. But when we create this internal pathway, which is the microcosmic orbit channel, at least that's one pathway you can bring it in, this internal energy channel up the back, down the front of the body. You open this pathway. You start to program your sexual energy to flow through this. Now it's moving through this orbit. It's moving and it's transforming. And it becomes like you're becoming steam powered by this sexual energy that's pulsating, building this pressure in your energetic system. And you choose what you want to put that energy into rather than it just driving you and doing whatever you want to do. And a huge thing here is grounding. Being able to ground your energy. What does this really mean? What does this really look like? A huge part is physical relaxation. A lot of people have all these tension patterns in their mind and their body. They're up in their heads. They're thinking constantly. They're in fight or flight mode. And when you're in that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight nervous system all day, every day, it becomes difficult to hold on to your sexual energy because you can't really hold any more pressure. You're already on edge, so to speak. So being able to relax and nourish the nervous system is a huge part, because when you add more energy into a system that's already kind of short-circuiting, we could say, it usually doesn't go very well. This is why a lot of men struggle with practicing semen retention. So creating more space, relaxation in the mind and body is extremely important, but also physical grounding, being able to sink your energy into the earth. This is something I teach in my course, Multi-Orgasmic Man, is how to directly connect your sexual energy into the earth's energy. So you bring in the earth chi through your legs up into your sexual center. You exchange your sexual energy with the earth in a certain way. So it literally combines your sexual energy with the earth's chi to slow it down, make it cooler. And it's like you have this massive grounding wire now, because you have the support of the earth holding you, holding all of your energy, and you can hold so much more. So being able to be grounded, comfortable within your body, comfortable holding a high level of energy is very important, because again, your sexual energy it's raw desire, it's raw potential. And how much desire and potential can you hold in your body and be comfortable, be relaxed, be able to hold that and direct it into what you want? It's like we're really cranking up the juice on our energy system when you start practicing retention. And so this is why there's foundations that are important. Opening up the body, being able to relax and calm your mind. Because if you're just, allowing your mind to drive you all around all day, every day, random thoughts, worries, fears, you're stuck in monkey mind mode 24/7, your sexual energy starts to just amplify that, right? This is why a lot of men get overwhelmed when they start practicing retention. So when you learn how to meditate, you learn how to balance your nervous system, you learn how to calm yourself down, be able to circulate the charges building up in the genitals. I mean, we haven't even talked about the direct sex part of it, in that this all translates into you being able to control and keep your energy cool during sex, which means that you can last as long as you want, not just 20, 30 minutes, but hours if you really want to, and allow this energy to spread through your whole body, bringing you into states of full body orgasm. And you can consciously bring this energy and circulate it with your partner, which creates a very powerful shared unison orgasm, which is different than just, having sex for 5 minutes and ejaculating. It becomes pretty boring compared to these powerful levels of full body orgasm, where you're making love for long periods of time, building up this tremendous charge of energy, circulating it between you, allowing it to penetrate into your organs, to your glands, to your brain. You're on a whole different level of orgasm. And being able to do that without ejaculating, you do that regularly, and you are on a whole different level of energetic experience. You're lit up 24/7. So this all takes training, of course. And that's what sexual kung fu is all about. It's about sequential training. We can talk about this stuff all day, but if you don't have a system you're following, if you're not practicing every single day, nothing's going to change. So, and again, that's why I'm offering to you guys right now to join my free masterclass on July 2nd, Male Sexual Mastery Secrets. I'm going to be teaching you how to circulate the sexual energy, how to use the breath and certain body engagements to keep yourself calm and cool, to keep this energy balanced, be able to control your ejaculation, overcome premature ejaculation, have non-ejaculatory orgasms, and manifest whatever you want with the sexual energy. So sign up for that free masterclass. There's a link on this YouTube, right in the YouTube chat right now. I think if it's not in the description, it will be if you're watching it later. And in my Instagram bio, sign up for a Male Sexual Mastery Secrets training. You're going to learn the techniques to do this. So it's all about doing the practice, guys. And with that, I'm going to answer some questions now. Feel free to type your questions in the chat box. Do a little Q&A now.
It should be the pinned message.
Boxing TV, what's up with Fire? Ray Hilson, Krim Tully, Adley Blair, thank you. Okay, Modi, thank you. Okay, so Nasher Buenafe says, hello, do you know or use the Bagua to seal the energy before or after Qigong practice or after the testicle breathing? I do work with the Bagua, which is kind of a sacred geometrical pattern. It's really an energetic configuration, we could say, that's used a lot in Taoist practice. I do work with Baguas a lot. Sealing the energy, there's various practices I do to seal the energy in the body to finish a practice, but I definitely do work with the Bagua. Okay, why is there so much tension in the gooch area? So the perineum, the taint area, this is a very common tension, very common place of tension for men, maybe for women as well. I'm not entirely sure if it's as common for women, but a lot of men carry a lot of tension in their pelvic floor area. I think there's many reasons for this. I think one of the most common is from poor masturbation habits. Basically, I think a lot of us discovered at a young age when we started masturbating that if we squeeze the pelvic floor, like you're trying to hold back urine when you're masturbating, it basically brings more pleasure quickly. It activates the sympathetic nervous system. And what that means is you feel more sexual buildup more quickly. So it brings you closer to the point of orgasm quickly, and it feels good, right? But unfortunately, when you do that time and time again, it basically programs your system to, when your penis is being stimulated, clench these muscles, and that creates premature ejaculation. Because again, this clenching activates the fight or flight response. It increases the buildup of tension around the prostate area, which is what, once this builds up, it creates an ejaculation. So I think that's one reason, is poor masturbation habits. Another reason is too much time sitting down. I can say from, I've been doing a lot of driving over the past month on my trip. Had a 5-hour drive the other day, and I noticed at the end of the day, a lot of tension in my pelvic floor area. So I had to do a lot of stretching, a lot of exercises to release that tension. So when you're sitting down every day, it's really not good for you in a lot of levels, but especially your pelvic floor. And general stress and tension, like, again, our mind and body are connected. So a lot of people are holding these tension patterns within their body due to traumas, due to just stress and, overstimulation. And the pelvic floor is a very common place that this tension is held, which is why it's so important for men to release pelvic floor tension, in regards to premature ejaculation, better erections, and just better sexual health and circulation in general. And unfortunately, a lot of people are saying that the best exercise for men to do is Kegel exercises, which actually makes this much worse. Thanks, Tom, Bruto. Thanks, Ankur. Okay, Goodwill one says, can you address any concerns regarding retention and semen causing problems with the prostate? So basically, semen retention in regards to prostate health. So there's this kind of a myth that because, medical science studies have supposedly showed that men who ejaculate more frequently are less likely to have prostate issues. But if you really look at the studies you did, to me, they're very inconclusive. They didn't take so many other factors into account. Like, okay, well, were these because often people who masturbate more and who are more sexually active, even if it's by themselves, typically it means that they're in a bit better health. They probably are a bit happier. Their mood's a bit better. Overall, maybe they're healthier people, and that's why they're masturbating more. Typically, when people are really, really depressed, really just super low energy, they don't even feel like sexual activity. So there's so many factors to the prostate, and again, I say this a lot, but 50% of men, maybe even more now, end up with prostate issues at some point. And I guarantee that, more than this amount of men are ejaculating frequently. So the thing is that prostate issues are common for men, period, whether or not they're retaining their semen or ejaculating frequently. So if your only solution to keeping your prostate healthy is to ejaculate frequently, you probably aren't that concerned about. There's so many factors to prostate health, and personally, I have not had any prostate issues in my 8 years of semen retention. I'm not saying I've retained it for 8 years, like haven't ejaculated in 8 years. I do have occasional ejaculations, but I have gone, long periods of time without ejaculating. I definitely don't ejaculate frequently. No prostate issues here. And I actually have a high likelihood of having prostate issues. 3 of my uncles, my mom's side of the family, I have a lot of my mom's genetics. All of them had prostate issues. One of them had to get his prostate removed. And, I'm still young, so we'll see. I'm going to care for it as I get older. But again, it's simply about learning how to keep your body healthy. And it's not about whether or not you're ejaculating. It's not that hard to keep your prostate healthy. Okay. William Spowage says, how is this supported in the Holy Bible, please? I'm not the best person to ask about kind of biblical things like that. The Bible is something that's been really altered a lot throughout our human history. A lot's been removed and taken out and kind of twisted to kind of, I'm not going to go into that whole trip, but I'm not the best person to ask about this. Someone else who sees how this all fits into the Holy Bible, feel free to type it in. Your kind of interpretation of this. Modi Shabbat says, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He says, when I do the cosmic orbit, because in the microcosmic orbit, do I imagine that because I don't feel it some part of my back and chest? So I'm not sure if you're asking, do you imagine the microcosmic orbit happening? The microcosmic orbit is about feeling this channel by bringing your mind into your body. There's various methods of working with it, but most people won't feel it in the beginning simply because they don't have enough chi pressure built up. That comes from working with the Dan Tien, building up the Dan Tien. That's really the only way that you get enough chi pressure. Other than working with sexual energies is effective as well, but to really have a tangible experience of the microcosmic orbit, you simply have to build the Dan Tien first, which requires months, maybe even years of training. Check out my Dan Tien breathing video to get started with that. But I should say here that anyone can work with the orbit from the beginning. Just because you don't feel chi circulating through it doesn't mean that it's not. It just means that your chi isn't really thick enough or consolidated enough. It's not really, pressurized enough basically to become tangible. But it doesn't mean nothing's happening. Everyone has their orbit actually open and flowing right now. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be alive. It's just a matter of increasing the chi pressure, thickening it to a higher level to where it does become tangible. Then it's a pretty cool experience when you feel that electrical buzzing current through your whole body. But it takes years to get there for most people. It did for me, certainly. Okay, Cesar says, how to stop drinking coffee? I drink 5 shots of espresso every day, sometimes more. Definitely is going to shoot your adrenals down pretty hard. So number one, rebuild your adrenal system. If you need coffee just to get going, you're definitely adrenally depleted. Your kidney energy is probably a bit low. This is extremely common in general for people. So rebuilding your adrenals, which, taking animal organs, like pasture-raised organ meats, or taking like supplements that have glandular extracts and things like that can really help to build your adrenals. Getting all of your essential minerals, boron, magnesium, zinc, selenium, and eating basically, a healthy diet. Look up kidney yin, supporting like diet and foods, kidney yin energy in Chinese medicine. And basically, if you follow some of those things, it will help you rebuild your adrenals. And basically, allow yourself to rest more. When you're overstimulating your system, it means you need more rest. So more stillness, more quiet time, more calmness, more just like playing, having fun, not trying to like work hard and things like that. I certainly fried my adrenals earlier in my life. And so I was able to rebuild them, I think practicing qigong is very helpful. Stop drinking coffee. It's only going to make it worse. Some things that I like to drink instead of coffee or caffeine are schizandra berry, SCHISANDRA, schizandra berry. A 5 flavor berry, it's also called. That's a common one. I often get the schizandra berry powder, and in the morning I just heat up some water, put the berry powder in there and mix it around. It's very energizing, but not in a stimulating way. It tonifies all 5 organs. It's a great one. Gynostemma, GYNOSTEMMA, is a really great adaptogenic tea you can make that will it gives you some of that calm energy, but without burning out your adrenals. So those are some things, basically you want to replace coffee with something else and then work on rebuilding your system. We could work on rebuilding your adrenals. Because when you get, when you have healthy adrenals, you have overall healthy energy levels. You wake up in the morning, you feel good. You feel energized. I wake up in the morning and I feel pretty good generally, right? If I've had a good night's sleep. I remember back in the day though, where I was like a zombie for the first hour or two as getting out of bed. So qigong was incredibly helpful for me in that. J910 says, when drawing energy of the microcosmic orbit during intercourse, should I squeeze the PC muscle? I do not recommend this. I know that this is often commonly taught. I believe that this is a bit of a misunderstanding of the techniques as they've been kind of brought to the West, a misunderstanding of what they were really talking about, because there is an engagement of these energy gates in the perineum area. But just straight up squeezing like a Kegel, for most men, it makes them ejaculate quicker. Yes, you will feel the rush of energy because that activates the sympathetic nervous system, which does connect to the back of the body, the spine. But my experience is that, again, if you get in this habit of squeezing really hard during sex, it can create premature ejaculation and erection issues over time. So what I do is I just stay relaxed. Or just imagine you're squeezing that muscle. See what that does for you. You use your mind to activate that, those energy gates down there, or simply use a very, very, very light squeeze if you're going to at all. Also try kind of engaging the glutes instead, like kind of if you were very gently squeezing the butt cheeks together, gently though, not super hard. If you can kind of isolate that without using the perineum muscles, then, see what that does for you as well. But yeah, I don't do any perineum muscle squeezing these days. And I'm very, very well able to move the energy up the spine. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. Ray Hillsman says, do you know of any practices that are good for building sexual energy when working with spirits or otherworldly entities, i.e. having sex with spirits? Okay, so some of the like sex magic, succubus, incubus thing where I'm not sure if you're doing this, but like where you're like summoning spirits and having astral sex with them and trying to, it's weird stuff. It's something that I personally would choose never to tread into because you can get in some really, really weird things with that. So I don't recommend that kind of stuff, personally. You don't need to kind of connect with these other kind of incorporeal bodies and things. The thing is like you're in the physical, which means you have a stronger sense of independence. To have a physical body really is to be this independence. And when you start like giving your power away to these weird astral things, you just don't really know where that's going to lead you to. So I would say be very careful with that. You don't need to. There's a lot of other ways to build your sexual energy. Some of the weird sex magic stuff. But, that's just me. If it works for you, that's great. Steven says, do you recommend sobriety? I've been practicing retention, but struggling with quitting weed. I definitely do, because when you're taking some kind of substance every single day, again, you're giving your power away to something else. That substance is controlling you. Here's the thing: is everything is an exchange, and especially with things that get you high. There's a trade-off. Yeah, it gives you a hit of something. You feel good. You feel, ooh, I'm open, and I feel silly, and I feel clear. But there's a trade-off. You give that kind of that plant spirit some of your gene. There's an exchange happening there, which means that your vital essence over time can be depleted. Psychoactive substances tend to deplete your kidney energy, which is your core sexual energy. So ask yourself really is, why do you need that thing in the first place? This became very obvious to me when I really got into qigong practice, because I was becoming very, very sensitive how everything I was putting in my body was affecting me. I used to love smoking weed. I used to do it almost every day when I was younger. And once I started practicing qigong, I realized it was just making me foggy. Really, you're just living life in this cloud. And like, yeah, you feel, you first get high and you feel a bit euphoric, and then it kind of tails off. And you're like, you just want to like lay on the couch. For your hormones to do it every day, things like that. So I would say if you're going to work with this, in moderation, it's pretty harmless. But if you're having it every single day, it's kind of an addictive habit, and you want to really look into that and say, how can I get myself into a state of openness and like enjoyment without having to take a drug? And that's what, for me, that's why I do meditation. That's why I do qigong. I get a lot higher, a lot more stable with it, and there's no negative side effects. Francisco Beckman says, can you reach the highest level of energy cultivation, the immortality the Taoists talk about, along with basic practices like Zhan Zhuang? Or is it necessary to do more advanced practices? Okay, well, if I was immortal, I could answer this question, but I'm not. I don't know anyone who's achieved this level. But so I can't, really answer this one from experience. Immortality is it's speculative. It's theoretical. I don't know of anyone who's actually done it. There's legends and things like that. And I'm not saying I don't believe it's possible. I certainly believe it's possible, but I haven't figured it out yet. So I don't know really what else to tell you. But I imagine it involves getting out of society, getting out of the stress of the modern world, and just doing hardcore cultivation practice somewhere very peaceful, like a cave or a forest or something like that, for many, many years. I would say that, it's not really a huge focal point for me right now. I mean, my cultivation, my spiritual cultivation is very, very important to me, but I still like to be involved with the worldly life and things like that at this point in my life. Maybe in my 40s and 50s, I'll want to go live in a cave. But anyways, I'm definitely on the path of learning how to do it. I would love to, how do I get to these highest levels of cultivation as well? But Still searching for that. Hazim says, my life is currently very stressful. I feel like I'm getting more challenged in life. Like people are hard on me, and I never felt this way before starting semen retention 3 months ago. Well, I imagine you're not alone in feeling this way. You know, the world's a pressure cooker right now, and you know, the transformation, the crises, everything's being turned up to 11. I think we all kind of signed up for this being in planet Earth. So it is what it is. It may or may not relate to you doing semen retention. And it might, you know, again, with semen retention, you have more energy and you're amplifying things. So, you know, may just be like looking at these patterns that are coming up and say, what does this mean about myself and things like that. But, you know, everyone's being challenged pretty hardcore right now. So, you know, be gentle on yourself, find ways to do meditation, do qigong, keep your energy balanced, spend time in nature, have fun as much as you can. David Almeida says, what do you think about products to delay ejaculation? Do they work or are they harmful? I'm guessing you're talking about like the numbing creams and things like that. I think that they're Band-Aids. And it's not really getting to the root of the issue. And, you know, some people like to use Band-Aids their whole life and not really get to the root of an illness or something, which often gets worse and worse throughout time if you don't look at the roots of it. So my philosophy is to go head on. If I'm having some sort of issue, you know, I don't want to just Band-Aid. I want to go deep into what's causing this. What is the root cause of this? How can I completely remove this and develop mastery over this thing I'm experiencing? You know, any man can learn to last longer, but you have to be able to put in the time and the effort to do that. So Kung Fu it's skill and discipline training. So instant gratification things that give you instant results typically don't last very long and are not effective in the long run. So, you know, eventually that Band-Aid is going to become infected, right? So I recommend doing the sexual Kung Fu training, going deeper into why you need to delay your ejaculation, why, you know, can you start to control your nervous system, start breathing during sex, start opening up your pelvic floor so you don't have these tension patterns, and, you know, do the work to resolve this. And then you won't have a numb penis during sex. You will be able to fully enjoy sex with massive presence and last longer. So it's a win-win. God Chosen One says carnivore diet for sexual health. It will be great for some people. It will not be great for other people. The thing is that diet is very based on your constitution, your specific needs during the season, during the phase in your life that you're at. There's no single like diet that works for everyone. You know, I know that diet is something that's very trendy and becomes religious for a lot of people. But what I've found is that my body needs different things at different times, you know, and when you develop some sensitivity to what your body actually needs, it will communicate with you and you will know what foods are good for you, because everyone has different genetics. We have different backgrounds of our, you know, our constitution and things like that. Zen Ray says, how long does it typically take to resolve premature ejaculation from overly tight pelvic floor? Feels almost impossible in the beginning, like you'll never be free of premature ejaculation. So as far as removing tension patterns, it can take several months for a lot of men. It took me, I will say, 6 to 8 months of doing a lot of work on my pelvic floor to feel like I released most of the tension patterns. And sometimes they come back a little bit when you're stressed out, when you've been, you know, spent 5 hours in a car driving, whatever. But yeah, in general, it took me I noticed about 6 to 8 months to really feel like my pelvic floor was back to like a neutral point without a lot of excess tension. So it takes time, you know, just keep working with it, keep practicing, and you can do it. Scott, question on deep belly breathing. Yeah, feel free to put that in here. Okay, Nick Lemon Training says, are you taking the later stages of Michael Wynn's course in Asheville? Yes, I'm spent a couple of weeks with Michael Wynn doing some of the later retreat weeks. I will be in North Carolina next month. I love it there. Okay, Scott says, I do 2 dedicated practice sessions a day. Is it okay to practice this type of breathing all day long every time I'm actively thinking to breathe this way? So you're talking about deep belly breathing. So basically, should you be doing deep belly breathing all day? Like, in general, for most people, it's definitely going to be beneficial compared to how if you have very shallow breathing, which most people do, especially if you have a lot of stress in your life. But again, for the average person, it's not really going to be sustainable to actually do that 24/7. Here's where Taoist breathing comes in. This is something that I've, it's really kind of, it's changed the game for me on a lot of levels of abdominal breathing as a quality that you build versus something that you make yourself do. Basically, again, and I teach belly breathing, so I have to, kind of be careful. This is actually a very subtle kind of deep thing here, in that. So when you put your hands on your belly and you breathe into it, okay, you can say you're belly breathing, but as soon as you put your attention on something else, you probably go back into your old breathing habits. Breathing, not breeding. And that's fine. It's still very, very beneficial to do that. And during sex, it's beneficial to do that. It helps you last longer. But when I studied in some various practices of basically giving the breath your attention, observing the breath. So you sit quietly and you simply observe the breath happening. You absorb your mind into the nostrils and just feel, okay, this is what's happening in my body as I breathe. You don't try to change the breath. And if you sit there and you gradually move your awareness lower, move it to the sinuses, to the throat, eventually you naturally move into abdominal breathing and you deeply, deeply calm your mind. You drop, this is kind of this is something I teach in the course, Multi-Orgasmic Man. And again, it's just kind of basic Taoist breathing, is that you're not making it happen. You simply observe, you put your attention into it, and rather than using strong intention to change it, you just observe it, and it transforms your breathing over time. And that's something that becomes very sustainable 24/7. So I know that was a bit of a long answer and maybe doesn't even make sense to very abstract, but I kind of challenge you to simply observe your breathing and relax into that as much as you can throughout the day, and see how that naturally starts to put you into a state of abdominal breathing versus you kind of using it. It does take a lot of energy to breathe that way all day. He doesn't exist says, are soul ties and energy exchanges a thing when having sex with someone? Yes. Sex is a very, very deep, intimate exchange. You're absorbing all kinds of information from whoever you're having sex with. So yeah, it's a neutral thing, right? It can be good, it can be bad. It's important to be aware of that, though, that you're absorbing a lot of their patterns, that you're giving them your patterns. It's a deep exchange. How does one cleanse someone's bad energy afterwards if it's the things? Unfortunately, it's not as easy as like, okay, I had sex with someone who's kind of a weirdo. I'm just going to remove the energy. It's gone. Okay, it never happened. Maybe a very, very, very high level skilled practitioners can do this. I certainly believe it's possible, but the average person, I'd say myself included, it just doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes, you can do what you can to cultivate your energy, to balance, harmonize your energy afterwards. But in general, you're still going to have a bond from that exchange. Carlo Hermano says, what is qigong in simple words? Qigong is practices that activate, cultivate, circulate, and store the qi of your body, the bioenergy, basically, right? That's what qigong is. It's a very general term. It can be all kinds of things. And this could be, standing postures, moving exercises, sitting, laying practices, walking exercises, yoga type practices. It could be a lot of things. Qigong is just energy work, basically, self energy work. Spirit Channel 333 says, hi, I've heard you talk about moving energy using the microcosmic orbit. Do you have videos showing this method? Yes, I have several videos. Just look up Sexual Kung Fu Microcosmic Orbit. You'll find several. There's the direct microcosmic orbit practice. There's the testicle breathing practice. I have that on YouTube where you learn how to move your sexual energy through the orbit. So look up those and you will be on the path of practicing. Marketing Day Poder says, what do you do after ejaculation when it happens? Well, for me, it's not really a big deal because I have intentional ejaculations in a certain cycle. For me, about once a month or so, it actually suits me to have an ejaculation. I've experimented with many things over the years, and I find I feel the best overall, the most energy, the most balance in my life when I ejaculate about once a month during sex. I should say during sex. I don't think I would do this if I was like during masturbation. And so, and it's also relevant to say that I do so much, internal alchemical practices, drawing the energy of that semen, cooking in the dantian, basically really kind of harvesting the yang essence of that semen, so that when I do ejaculate, it's kind of like shooting on an empty shell. I've captured the energy, so it doesn't really feel like much has happened after I ejaculate. I still feel highly energized. I often still feel horny, and that happened. That starts to happen when you practice sexual kung fu, over a long period of time. It took me a few years to get there, I would say. So an ejaculation isn't really a big deal. So there's not really anything I need to do, but just as precautions, I do make sure to take some zinc, and I'll take like some bee pollen or some Kenyan herbs or something like that. But, there's not really anything I feel the need to do after the occasional ejaculation. But I do have some videos of, because again, earlier in my journey, it would wipe me out. Even after, a month of retention, it would wipe me out to ejaculate. And so I was doing as very, very little as possible. And that's when, some of the videos I've made about ejaculation recovery, like foods you can eat, supplements you can take, exercises you can do, just look up Sexual Kung Fu Ejaculation Recovery. You'll find a lot of things that will support you with that. Basically, you want to replenish that gene that you lost as quickly as possible. Randall Frank says, do you drink sodas at all, and how often? No, not really. Definitely not the high fructose corn syrup, like Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew. That stuff is really gnarly. It does absolutely nothing good for you. Nothing for you. They don't even taste good to me anymore once I stop having sugar. So, but occasionally I'll have like a LaCroix, a sparkling water with some flavor in it. That's about as far as I go with that. But mostly I just drink water. I don't do a lot of the flavored beverages and things like that. Water and herbal teas and things is all I really like to drink. Speaking of drinking water, Zach Dunn says, are tight hips directly correlated to tight pelvic floor? If A, then B kind of thing. Definitely, because the pelvic floor muscles, this is one of the biggest kind of the problems with a lot of people talking about sexual health and things is that they treat the pelvic floor muscles like they're just this complete standalone group, but the pelvic floor muscles directly connect with all the surrounding muscle groups, the glutes, the abdominals, especially the hip area, the thigh muscles, all of that directly connects to the pelvic floor. So yes, generally, if you have really tight hips, you also have very tight pelvic floor. So a lot of the pelvic floor balancing exercises are like hip stretching exercises and things like that. What is it? Inclined butterfly pose, where you lay on your back with your knees, soles of your feet touching with your knees relaxing to the side. One of the best exercises for your pelvic floor. So yeah, correct your hip, tension and things like that, and it will help release the pelvic floor as well. Gato Suerte says, is there any presential retreat planned in the near future? I'm hoping to put some things together in August, which is coming right up, right? August, September. I know I'm like craving to put on some in-person retreats, and just, to just be upfront with it. I have a difficult time organizing these things myself. I just, for whatever reason, so if anyone's like, I've got a sweet retreat space, I've got hook up with retreat, reach out to me. I'm really hoping to put some very affordable, approachable retreats for everyone, because I've had a few options that were like super high-end luxury places, but I don't want it to be like, $5,000 for a 3 or 4 day retreat. I want it to be much more affordable for everyone. So I'm definitely putting together some physical retreats, workshops like that in the very near future.
Say to let you know by email.
Yeah, let me know by email if you've got a retreat space. You want to help host a sexual kung fu event, put it together. Send my team an email, info@jonathanwhitelifestyle.com. Real Deal Makers LLC says, how to manifest with this sex energy. Well, I'm not going to go too deep into this because I've talked about this so many times. And check out my video on how to manifest with sexual energy. I've made several videos on it. But basically, you have to be able to put yourself in the state of you've already achieved that which you want to accomplish, being very specific about it, focus on one thing at a time, sit there, put yourself in a deeply heart activated state, feel like you've accomplished that, feel the gratitude, feel the tangibility, the emotional quality of it. And simultaneously, when you're doing, not necessarily like right at that moment, but overall in your daily life, you're doing sexual practices, you have this supply of sexual energy built up. It's going to, magnetize these things to you. I did a whole training on a practice that supercharges this. It's my primordial alchemy course on my website. But yeah, look up my sexual kung fu, how to manifest with sexual energy videos. I've made several of them. Okay, SR says how to practice without a partner. This is the best time to practice because, the initial stages of sexual kung fu training are just you working with your own energy. So basically, I'm not just sexual cultivation as a whole. You do qigong, you do breath work, you do microcosmic orbit practice, and then you start to connect with your own sexual energy. So first of all, in an unaroused state, you learn to circulate your sexual energy through your body, testicle breathing practice. I like to call it orgasmic breathing. And then basically the practice is that you stimulate yourself, and rather than just going for, rather than just looking at porn, trying to go to a high arousal point as possible and just ejaculate unconsciously, you focus on maintaining relatively, I don't want to say a low level arousal, but just hovering at like 60, 70% of the way towards ejaculation. So you're hovering at a reasonable arousal rate, really bringing your mind and your attention into your body. And as the energy starts to build up, you start to circulate it. Bring it into your dantian, bring it into your organs, bring it into your glands, bring it through the microcosmic orbit. So you're stimulating yourself, you're circulating this energy, and then at the end, you store it in your dantian center. Basically, and again, you can bring it into various organs for healing. You build up the energy, arouse it, draw it into the body using your breath, using your mental awareness, your yi, your intent, and you store that sexual energy. So you've awakened it, you've moved it out of the genitals, and now it's put into some other part of the body to amplify the processes of that organ, that gland, that energy channel, whatever. Basically that. And the thing is you try, and then when you do go in to have sex with a partner, it's like you've already got the moves down, right? It's natural for you to do. So you don't have to think about, oh fuck, what am I doing when I'm having sex? It just happens. You just do it. You know how to bring the energy there, and then you're dancing. You're making love, baby. Ray Hilsman says, earlier you mentioned a practice circulating your sexual energy into the earth. What is your practice for doing this? Well, I teach this in much more depth in my multi-orgasmic man course because, there's some kind of foundations in place, but basically, you can circulate as you would circulate your sexual energy with a partner just in your own body. You can think of circulating it down into the earth, move your intention down into the earth, and then draw up from the earth into your sexual center, down into the earth, up in your sexual center. That's kind of a simplistic starting point with that, but it gets deeper than that as well. Real Deal Makers says, what is the downside to edging? Well, this depends on how you're edging. This is, again, this is kind of a vague question in itself because edging can be many, many different things. But edging often implies that you're like right on the edge of ejaculating. And for most men, this is not a great thing to do, at least not too frequently, because this comes down to the process of sexual cultivation, and especially having long sexual cultivation sessions and working with your sexual stimulation, basically. When you're right on the edge of ejaculation the whole time, it kind of trains you to do that, to just go right up to this high arousal level and hover there, which can, really premature ejaculation over time. So I think it's more wise to stay in the lower arousal level, so you're not right on the edge of ejaculating. And that's actually where the full body orgasm really happens, at least for me, because the full body orgasm doesn't correlate to the ejaculatory orgasm as far as what, the ejaculatory orgasm. I made a video on this, but basically what causes the ejaculatory orgasm is, the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're ejaculating. It's this tension building up in your prostate region, your pelvic floor. And once that tension hits 10, it has to release and start spasming, shooting out the fluid. And so that scale of 1 to 10 doesn't necessarily correlate into full body orgasm state. So you can be at a 6 or 7 and have a full body orgasm. So it's a whole different thing here. I know I'm kind of going on a long one with this one, but it's important to understand that, yeah, it's like, well, how are you edging? Are you just watching porn and just hovering right at the edge? Yeah, it's probably going to cause a lot of tension. You're going to have blue balls. You're going to basically make your penis a loaded gun if you don't resolve that tension, meaning that the next time you have sex or self-stimulate, you're going to ejaculate very quickly. So there's a right way and a wrong way to practice edging. I made a video on this, right? But basically, you want to train yourself. You can use it to train yourself to slowly climb the arousal scale and stay more calm and relaxed in your mind and your body. Focus on relaxing, breathing, allowing the energy to spread through your whole system, rather than just, I'm at a 9.5, stop. Oh, okay. It's very different, and it trains you to hold a higher degree of arousal overall. So the downside would be creating more tension and, potentially putting it so you're right at the edge of ejaculating all the time, because you don't know how to resolve the tension at the end, which is what the sexual kung fu practices do. Troy Jones says, I really need your help. Please advise how and if you can. Well, you can, type in your issue, your question, and I'll do my best. Gato Suertes has been practicing qigong daily for the last few weeks. Feeling really stacks up. That's awesome. It does really build on itself. Greetings from Costa Rica. Greetings from the US. God Chosen One says, why is it that when on semen retention, it's hard to think clear, and then as soon as you ejaculate, you think clearly? So this just means that all of your energy is built up in your genitals. This is the whole thing. Semen retention, I talk about semen retention, but the whole thing is it's systematic, right? If you just do semen retention, like, okay, I'm just not going to ejaculate, you're not really building skill. If you don't know how to work with that energy, yeah, you experience what you're talking about, where it just it strengthens the energy of your lower energy centers, because, yeah, the sexual energy builds up there. The sexual kung fu approach is, yeah, you allow it to build there, but then you circulate it. So it's not all just stuck in the genitals, amplifying your lower impulses and desires, making you only be able to think from your dick. That's the thing here is that this is the thing that a lot of men kind of get stuck with in semen retention, is they just build their semen up. That's all they do. And they don't know how to circulate it. They don't know how to transform it. And so all they do is they get more horny. They spend more effort and time trying to attract women and make money and get the cars, all the superficial things, just so they can have sex. And that's fine if that's what you want. But when you learn how to draw the energy through to your upper centers, draw it to your heart, you feel more driven by, oh, there's more to life than sex and just being horny. And I mean that's part of it, right? Your sexual libido is greatly increased as well, but not to the point where it's like completely controlling you. Here's the whole thing. You want to transform that energy, turn it into creative, usable, artistic, loving energy. Otherwise, you're just a horny, like, angry person all the time. And I don't really like being like that. So practice sexual kung fu rather than just semen retention alone, and I think you'll get much better results. Jack says, how much practice does it take to build the Dantian to a substantial level? It depends. Depends on your previous background. If someone's completely starting from zero, they've never done any neigong, internal practices, qigong, meditation, it may take them years. It could take a few years, and that's fine. This stuff, it doesn't happen overnight. I think that's why these things are not as popular now as they have been in other times, because we're in an age of instant gratification. People want to click the mouse, have it delivered instantly. They want to take a pill, have everything done. It does not work like that in internal cultivation. You have to practice hours and hours and hours over months and years. And then you start really seeing some results. It doesn't happen overnight, but you do start seeing good things from the beginning. So this is the path of Kung Fu: internal mastery, skill, discipline, patience. Having said that, again, usually for most people within, I would say, a few months of doing the Dantian work, it will be more substantial, right? Most people have a background in meditation and these practices start feeling the Dantian pretty quickly. But again, to really become substantial and build enough of a field there that becomes stable to where you kind of feel it throughout your day, if you really try to connect with it, maybe 3 months to a year for the average person. I'm gonna throw that out there. For me, when I started really doing Dantian work, this teacher taught me this technique. He's like, okay, do it for an hour a day. And I did it for an hour a day for like 3 months. And my Dantian got pretty solid in those 3 months, I will say. Derek Trevino says, how does your family view your line of work, teaching things about sexuality? Are they cool with it, or maybe a little critical of it? I will say that I don't tell my family absolutely everything about my life. It's always been like that. I was always kind of the black sheep in the family, just kind of doing my own thing. Like okay, here's little Johnny doing his thing. But they're very supportive of me. I will say that they're very supportive of. They don't understand everything, but I think especially as they're getting, my parents, I guess I would say my parents specifically, as they're getting older, they're starting to, I was always I got into health and like nutrition things like 10 years ago, and at the time, like, oh, okay, you're eating your organic foods and, okay. But now they're like asking me about like, how do you stay so healthy and all these things. So I'm actually like, they're really interested in it now that they're getting up there in age and things like that. And, especially I think my dad in the sexual health department has been helpful for him getting into more natural remedies and things like that. He's been very much more open to like the more holistic route, things like that. So, I have an awesome family, but they get some of the things I do and they don't get everything, and that's fine. I'm not really the type of person that's trying to please my family. I do things more for just what I believe I want to do. It just kind of brings us this thing of like, how much these kind of ancestral baggage a lot of people hold. Like so many people are like, well, I'm doing this because my father wants me to. I should be doing this because, the weight they put upon themselves based on the expectations of others. And, it's good to just be who you are, not worry about these things. Real Deal Maker says, how does practicing semen retention help to give your partner, a woman, an orgasm? That's a good question. Because when you learn how to control your ejaculation, then you can, usually last as long as you want during sex. For women, it takes a lot longer for them typically to become aroused and to build up to an orgasm. So, the average man lasts about 5 minutes during sex, maybe less. And that's usually not enough time for, I think it's like something like 80% of women are not having orgasms through sex, through sexual intercourse. And obviously there's a bit of a mismatch here, right? So semen retention helps you close that gap, or specifically learning ejaculation control, because when you're no longer fixated about, for a lot of men, it's just like, okay, I just got to get to ejaculation as quickly as possible. That's what it's all about. And they're missing out on everything else that's happening. They're not really connecting with their partner. They're just like trying to get this quick fix and then it's over. It's over, And I definitely had my share of experiencing sex in that way. And it's not fulfilling. once I learned this whole system of, non-ejaculatory orgasms, and it's a completely different dynamic because you're no longer trying to get somewhere. You're orgasmic from the very beginning of starting sex, even before sex. You're in this orgasmic pulsation, and then the whole act of sex feels like an orgasm. So, and that gives you more, you develop your grounding, your ability to kind of hold the space to allow the feminine to get into an orgasm, and you're able to hold yourself, hold back the boys, hold back the horses during the intensity of, physical sex, so that you don't ejaculate and you can allow her to reach her orgasm. So it's definitely beneficial. David Almeida Paradis says, thanks for the answers and valuable information, Jonathan. What are your insights about male promiscuity? Isn't it our nature as man? I think this is an interesting question, but here's the whole thing is like of nature. I think this is kind of interesting how people kind of integrate this into, things in the modern world. Like, well, it's our, our primal animal state. So they'll choose like one thing, like, okay, well, this is what our hierarchy as animals would be. But okay, well, you live in a house with air conditioning and you get your food at the store, you don't hunt it. You don't really live like an animal, but you're choosing one thing to claim that this is like your animalistic nature. So I always think it's an interesting thing in this context, right? Just kind of sit up with that. But, I'm all about being natural and going the natural way and things like that. So on the issue of so-called male promiscuity, the thing is that we live in this, it's difficult to say who we would really be if we were raised in the jungle by jungle humans. How would we really be? None of us know, because it's never really happened. We have maybe, it's never been documented, I should say, right? So we really don't actually know what our habits would be for an actual natural state. But nothing about our world is natural. Again, we live in synthetic environments, social media, dating, Tinder, porn, all these things, intense levels of sexual stimulation. And so none of that's really natural, right? And so maybe a lot of that's driving so-called promiscuity. I don't know. And for me, it's not really an issue of morality. I'm like, is that right or wrong? It's whatever, it's whatever you choose, however you choose to reach completion in your life and your worldly destiny. It's fine. It's whatever. I don't care. I guess it just comes down to for me, it's like, what is the quality of that connection? It's not like, okay, you're having sex with a lot of people or not. It's like, are you actually like, what is driving that? Is it just because you're horny, lower center, sex center, impulsive desires driving you to have sex with a lot of people? That's fine, but you'll never really reach completion with that. You never really feel fulfilled just having a lot of physical sex with people. You always want more. The whole thing is about getting into our higher natures. Maybe we're more spiritual beings. Maybe the reason why we are one of the few creatures who has 24/7, 365 access to our sexuality and our sexual energies, because there's something bigger, there's something deeper with it, right? That's been we've been brainwashed out of it in a lot of ways, from our media, from porn. And that sex is actually this deeply spiritual drive. And that when we actually connect our sexual center to our heart, to our brain, our spirituality, which I think it's meant to be that way, maybe we could say that's actually natural, and everything here is just this weird distortion we've gotten caught up in. It's difficult to say, but I think that's the highest, truest expression of our sexuality, is an expression of love, connection, intimacy, creation, all these things together. And, I guess promiscuity, it depends how you determine that. Different people will choose different sexual encounters and preferences. Some people choose to be with one partner. They'll be with one person their whole life, be perfectly happy. Some people feel imprisoned by being with one partner. We're all different. It's not really up to me to say what's right or wrong with this. I'm just kind of, I don't know, we're all in this unique world, having unique paths to live. And it's what makes this world an interesting place, is that it's not, this is the way everyone must do everything. We all do things very uniquely, and it's all just a grand experiment, really. Who knows what's really natural, I guess. kind of ranched on that one for a while, but it's interesting. I mean, here's the whole thing. Okay, one more thing on this is like, another thing is that, like, we've seen having a lot of sex as being inherently wrong, having sex with a lot of different people. Like, what if we hadn't been conditioned to believe that sex was this like guilty, shameful, secretive thing? Like, if you had been raised believing sex was just as like giving someone a back rub or something like that, I mean, like, the 60s free love thing, it was normalized for them. If that's how we've been raised, that would be normal. And we wouldn't think anything about, there wouldn't be the word promiscuity because that would just be normal. So I think just seeing the bigger picture of things and realizing how it's our upbringing and our conditioning that it creates these containers from which we view the world and create our judgments and things like that. So just, I don't know. I'm all about like really trying to see the biggest picture of things and like, is this really an issue or am I creating it because I was taught to believe it should be an issue? I'm not saying everyone should go around having sex with someone. Definitely not. It's just, seeing a bigger picture. Anyways, we're going to move on from that. Xavier says, I'm only 27. Do you recommend testosterone booster? You definitely should not need some sort of testosterone booster at the age of 27. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean as testosterone booster. Like maybe you mean practicing semen retention is a testosterone booster. Taking some tonic herbs can be a testosterone booster, eating pasture-raised meats could be a testosterone booster for some people. But if you're talking more of like testosterone, like synthetic hormones in your bodies and things like that, you definitely don't need that at 27 years old. Get your diet in check, the right diet for your body type, getting all of your essential minerals, which most people are actually lacking from your diet, getting your magnesium, zinc, boron, selenium, getting in plenty of sleep and rest. This is actually one of the biggest things that people are missing because people are too stressed. Drinking enough water, exercising, strength training, semen retention, sexual cultivation, you'll be fine. MK says, what's the best way for me to recover from a bad poor habit? I've had porn-induced erectile dysfunction for 2 years now. What is the best way to recover from this? So this could be many, many things. It could simply be you have this fear developed around not being able to have erections. And it's kind of the story of, I still have porn-induced erectile dysfunction. I was jerking off to porn every day from age like 13 or 14 until 22, I think, 22 years old. That's a lot of, porn. And once I started practicing, semen retention, basically once I stopped porn, very, very quickly, my sexual, my erections and everything turned back to completely normal. But obviously it's going to be different. I think especially in this age of like tube porn, like I will say when I was in my teenage years getting into porn, it was like we had like dial-up internet. Remember that? That was a while ago, right? Early 2000s. And it took like an hour to download like a 5-second clip and it was all blurry, pixelated. It was like horrible quality. So it's a little different than now where it's like, ultra HD, absolutely anything you want. Click on a new video. It's pretty crazy now. That will definitely, mess up your dopamine. But just in general, first of all, if you have morning erections, if you have nocturnal erections during the night and in the morning, probably fine. It's just a matter of balancing your dopamine receptors, which, do a dopamine detox. Look up that. Stop spending time on social media. Get out in nature, exercise, things like that. And I suspect a lot of this is just the fear around erectile dysfunction. You're kind of so worried about it, so psyched out about it that it's self-fulfilling itself over and over. So if you have a healthy diet, healthy lifestyle, pelvic floor tension, there's a lot of things to look into. Look at, I did a video called The Ultimate Guide to Erections. I basically go into all the factors of erections in that video. Also look up Angion method, Angion. It's an exercise system that helps men develop the blood vessels of the penis and have much better erections. Jay's one Insta says, are females affected as much as men by releasing sexual fluids? Yes and no. Yes, in that there is a type of fluid release for women that drains their jing, just the same as ejaculation drains a man's jing. But for women, it's not sex or sexual, the vaginal fluids that flow out during sex. It's the menstruation, it's the blood, the bleeding that depletes their jing. And basically, women can do practices that lower the intensity of the menstrual cycle so that they're not spending so much jing to clear things out. It's this clearing of psychic debris for them. The body uses its blood to do this. So for women, the sexual kung fu exercises involve lessening the intensity of the menstruation cycle. Some women actually are able to eliminate it completely to where they don't menstruate, but I don't think, I think that could be a little extreme for I'm not a woman myself, so I can't say this from experience, but yeah, that's the jing loss for women is the menstruation cycle. For men, it's ejaculating. Dub G says, do women feel like they're missing out on something when you're withholding? I'm skeptical about how my wife feels about it. She says it's okay, but I don't know if she's just being nice. So first of all, withholding is if you are truly withholding, then yes, still definitely missing out. Here's an interesting thing about this, right? In that sex is energy exchange. But for some men, when they're getting into the non-ejaculatory sex, they not just withhold their semen, which is what you're referring to as withholding, but it can also be an energetic withholding, meaning that they're afraid of the woman taking something from them. They're afraid of giving to the woman. And so they literally withhold not just their semen, but their whole energy. So they're like always like, oh, they're very, I caught myself doing this a lot in my, kind of early days of sexual kung fu training, in that you're actually holding back your energy. So the thing here is that by not releasing fluid into the woman doesn't mean you're not exchanging energy. And here's the whole thing about sexual kung fu is like you're giving her the essence of your sperm, which you have almost enough, right? You have more and more and more. When you ejaculate out, it's gone. You can't give any more. And so you have to recover. And so, first of all, yes, a lot of women are used to experiencing the man ejaculating during sex because, again, they were conditioned to see that as the completing act of sex. And so a lot of women, they want their man to feel pleased and satisfied from sex. And if he doesn't ejaculate, a lot of them worried that he's not actually satisfied from it. And so they see that semen as like a physical sign that they've pleased him. They brought him to an orgasm. But when you kind of communicate that you don't need that, like you're having better orgasms without ejaculating, that, then I think it helps them open up to that, right? But here's the thing of being able to freely, when you're penetrating her with your energy, release, it's like you're energetically ejaculating into her, not physically ejaculating, then she feels you. She really feels you inside of her. And she will feel very, very fulfilled. So if you're kind of in the stages of like, oh, am I going to ejaculate? I got to hold back. Oh, no, can't really, you're not really 100% in that exchange of sex. When you allow yourself to just fill her up with your energy, you're like, no, when you're in that mastery, that confidence of, I'm not going to ejaculate, but I'm going to bring her to the highest levels of pleasure. That is you really being in your masculine. You're not withholding anything. You're freely giving her your energy, and you just don't ejaculate. So it's a very different dynamic, and it takes some training to really be able to do that. But when you learn how to really send your yang energy into her, I think it's more satisfying for most women than an ejaculatory orgasm, because it really opens them up, from my experience. Okay, just a few more questions, guys. Okay, Labro says, can you explain the difference between Kegels and reverse Kegels? Go to my YouTube channel, type in Sexual Kung Fu Kegels, and you'll see the videos on Kegels and reverse Kegels. I've talked about this a lot. Basically, a reverse Kegel is a pushing out. Next time you're going to the bathroom, if you're urinating, try to increase the flow of urine. Notice what muscles you use. That's a reverse Kegel. Try to stop the flow of urine. Notice what muscles you use. That's a regular Kegel. It's kind of a pushing out, stretching out versus a contraction, basically. Oscar Lara says, can you share what brand of vitamins you take, please? I do take a multivitamin. I can't remember the top of my head what it is. I apologize. Yeah. But generally, you want to get ones that are, vitamins that are food derived from natural foods. There's what's the company? Standard Process has a really, really great company. Highly recommend their stuff, because most most vitamins and supplements you go to the store and buy, your body can't even absorb them. You're literally just peeing them out. They're doing nothing for you. So you want to get the things that are as close to their natural state and absorbable by the body as possible. You know, you go cheap on these things, you get what you pay for, basically. You don't get much. But ideally, you get all these things from your diet, right? So which is why you want to eat, healthy diet where you're getting all these things. Organic, non-GMO. What kind of exercise you've been doing 1 hour every day to build up the Dantian? When I was first starting, I was doing the Dantian breathing. I have a video on this, Dantian breathing. Look it up. I was doing that practice basically for an hour a day. Now I'm doing different practices. I teach more of these in Moral Energy Arts, my online academy, but the Dantian breathing is pretty solid to really get in the ballpark with that. In the ballpark. The energy ballpark. Okay, Jose Young says, sexuality is just as natural as doing physical exercise. Totally agree with that. It's as natural as eating. In which way do you recommend we share and teach this ancient wisdom to our children? That's a good question. I think that when they're of, proper age to learn this, I don't think like kindergarten is good at a good age, but when they're mature enough to understand, just basically teaching them that sex is a very sacred thing. It's a sacred thing and not something to just, just how it's distorted, completely turned around by porn, and that it's something that should be done with respect, with love, both for themselves and for the other person. I think boys should learn that. Be careful about their ejaculations. Obviously, to teenagers, it's okay to ejaculate a lot more, but learn how to retain some of that energy. I think the biggest thing is understanding what's really happening when you're having sex, like the energetics. You're deeply connecting with someone. It's a complicated thing. I'd have to think more about how I would structure the sex talk, but I think that really presenting it as the sacred, powerful, but also very natural act that it is important. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks everyone for joining again. Sign up for my free Male Sexual Mastery Secrets Masterclass happening July 2nd. There's a link in my Instagram bio. There's a link on the chat of this YouTube video. There will be one in the description as well when you're watching the later stream. Sign up for that. You're going to learn how to overcome premature ejaculation, how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms, how to last as long as you want during sex, how to circulate your sexual energy through your body, and manifest whatever you want in your life with the sexual energy. So sign up for that. It's free. It's going to be really, really powerful. And take care, everyone. We'll see you soon.